Colour mixing and the knowledge of colour mixing successfully is not only a very important part in the enjoyment of oil painting, but it's also integral when you want to match that colour to the object that you were trying to represent with your oil paint. So colour mixing using the 3 primaries that I mentioned in my last video, the cadmium red, cadmium yellow and the French ultramarine, is what I'm going to be demonstrating today, and how you can take these 3 primaries and make secondary and tertiary colours. I'm then going to move on from there as well, and I'm going to go on to how to create tones within your paintings. And the 2 colours that I'm going to be using with the primaries are Payne's grey, I very rarely use black, and titanium white. So let's get into the first demonstration where I show you the primaries and how we can mix secondary colour. So you can see here underneath the glass that I've already placed a sketch that I've made of a blank colour wheel, and I'm going to place some oil paint, some red and the yellow and the blue on top of the glass, and then I'm going to blend it, and you can see where it should be sitting on that colour wheel. So you don't need to use too much colour for this, as a little bit goes a long way. I'm also today not going to be using any mediums in the paint, so I haven't got any turpentine or oil colour in this, it's just pure colour straight from the tube. However, I have got some turpentine here that I'm going to be using with some kitchen roll just to wipe off the brushes to keep them clean between some of the colours. Now ideally you would take an equal amount of red and an equal amount of yellow to blend together, but just taking some, you'll see that when we put them together they will make some sort of an orange colour. So we've taken 2 primaries here, and when we've mixed them, we've made our first secondary. So with that same principle, we then take the yellow and the blue, blend them together, and we arrive at green. And then finally, we're going to take the red and the blue, mix them together, and then we get our secondary colour, which is purple, sometimes called violet. So you can see here by taking the 3 primaries, we've now got a new colour palette of 3 more colours, and those are our secondary green, orange and purple. So I recommend that the best thing for you to do is to create your own colours by taking those 3 primaries, because there's nothing better than having a go for yourself. Don't worry about having a colour wheel drawn out. Main thing is that you're taking the 3 primaries and you're blending them together to see what you can make. Just to say as well that even though I've recommended these 3 particular colours when I made my colour wheel, if you've got a different blue, yellow and a red, you can still use them for your colour wheel. They'll still give you purple, green and orange. It'll just be slightly different to what I've got. So now you've got your secondary colour knowledge, we can move on to the tertiaries, which is just a natural extension of using primary and secondary colours together. So let's look at the demonstration. Now, just like with the secondary colour, I'm going to quickly mix the red and the yellow to make orange. The blue and the yellow to make green. And the red and the blue to make purple. So as you can see on the tertiary wheel, I've already written down the colours that I'm going to be mixing as a guide. And when you come to do yours, I would recommend that you write down those words first, just to kind of guide you as to what you're hoping to get on your colour wheel. So you can see that in between the secondary and the primary, we're going to blend those together and we're going to make our first tertiary. So we're going to take a yellow and a green, and obviously when you put the yellow and green together, it's going to make a yellowy green. So I'm going to work my way around the colour wheel. So when I put the red and the orange together, we're going to make some sort of a reddish orange. So as you can see, it's not an exacting science here. I'm taking some red and some orange. They're not particularly equal quantities, but when I put them together, they will give me this reddish orange colour. Now when you come to move from certain colours, for instance, this kind of orange, I'm now going to pick up blue. I don't want to be mixing the orange in with the blue, so I'm going to clean off my brush with a little bit of turpentine on a piece of kitchen roll. I'm going to give it a little bit of an extra wipe to make sure that I've got enough of that paint off. And you do get a good degree of the orange off, but But when I'm then going to pick up some blue, I don't really want to be blending it with the orange. So I'm going to be using a clean brush. And if you really want to get those lovely true colours, then I'd recommend that you use several clean brushes for this activity. So as you can see, using the 3 primaries has not only made 3 further secondary colours, giving us 6 colours out of the 3, we've actually made 12 colours out of those 3 primaries. Now I could have expanded this colour wheel, and you can, and I could have taken it from 12 sections into 24 sections and kept blending between the colours. So I'd recommend that you have a really good play with your colours on your colour wheel and find out all the different colours that you can make. It really can be a near endless activity and hopefully a lot of fun. So in my last video, I recommended that you began oil painting by buying 3 primary colours and a white. So let me just show you where that white can be used within the colour wheel. So if I just put a little bit of white out here and get myself a clean brush. So as you can see, when I blend the white with any of the colours on the colour wheel, it makes a pastel colour. And you can do that with any colour. So let's move on to tone. The word tone, when we're talking about colour, means how light or dark that colour can be made. As well as the word tone, we sometimes use the word value as well. A tone and value are the same thing. It's how light and dark a colour can be made. And when we come to change the tone of a colour, it's normally through the addition of white through to grey and degrees of grey from lighter through to dark. Now when I demonstrate how to make tones out of a colour, I'm going to be using titanium white and Payne's grey. So you can see here that I've got an orange that I've taken from the colour wheel. And underneath I've put some spots of white, light grey, slightly darker, all the way through to Payne's grey. And I'm going to blend those bit by bit with the orange. So let me show you. If we add white, we're just adding a pastel colour. It's made it a lighter orange. And as I add the greys, getting darker and darker as we move along the orange, you can see its tone has changed. And it's changed from being very light at the one end through to darker. And that's how you can add shading into your work. I've only shown you one colour here, but when you get your paints out, I'd recommend that you try tonal values on many different colours, and then you can have a really good play and see that actually when you're adding tone to any colour, the degrees of shading that you can add really are without limit. When we use the word colour to describe a paint, we should only really use that word when we are talking about those colours that sit on the colour wheel. So primaries and secondaries and tertiary colours are all pure colour. When we think about grey and black and white, those are known as neutrals, and we wouldn't normally class those as being colour, even though a lot of the time we do. So let's move on to the term hue. What is a hue? A hue is any colour that has degrees of that colour. So for instance, let me show you on the colour wheel. So when we take an orange and we mix it with other colours such as yellow and red, and we still get an orange, you could say that those new colours that you've made are degrees of the orange, and therefore they're hues of orange. And obviously you can apply that to all colours. So I hope the information and the demonstrations have been helpful for you in this video. The most important part is that you get your paints out and have a really good play and see what colours you can make. It really is a lot of fun. Also, you can now find me on Patreon. Until the next video, happy creating!